What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, also certified empowerment coach and president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching and Communications. And who are you?
Hi guys, I am Jazz Keys. I am the co-host of Stuff. I'm also a life coach and motivational speaker and an author. I specialize in empowerment as well, specifically in the areas of love, relationships, dating, parenting, and business. So I get the privilege of having these epic conversations every Wednesday night with the infamous Dr. Vibe. And again, as always, I am happy to be here tonight.
Well, we're always good to have each other here, and thank you to everyone who's watching live and on the replay. As always, I'd like to say during my epic conversations, which I host, and wherever I am, it's an epic conversation. You're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. And for people who are here for the first time, this is what we call Stuff. And what we do is we have a conversation, international conversation, about current events and culture from a black lady's and man's POV, which means point of view. So we missed last week, but we're back. Actually, we had a planning session last week. So we got a lot of things in the hopper for you guys. So if God lets us breathe, we'll get 10% of them done. So so a lot more positive stuff coming. But we have two epic conversation topics tonight. Jazz told me we're gonna get both in. I'm wondering, but she's driving the ship, so we're gonna start off with the one that's really hot over the last few days. But both of them are very important. The whole area of take a knee, and let's roll back to last Friday where President Trump was in a speech in Alabama in front of his base, basically saying that any NFL players that took a knee during the national anthem should be fired, and his base went crazy. And people were going all over the place about it. And then he basically told Stephen Curry from the NBA championship Golden State Warriors that, you're not invited to come to the White House, whereas most professional teams that win a championship are invited to come. He disinvited them to the White House. And then LeBron James got into it, saying basically called President Trump a bum. He did call him a bum.
He did.
And basically said to him, you know what? It was a pleasure coming to the White House before you were there. Bang. So lots of stuff going on, people, with this epic conversation topic. Hey, if you have... Oh, you know what? Before we get started, well, we already started. Shout out to Claude Diamond, who is watching live. I am humbled to say he's calling me the best interviewer in North America. Wow. And he said, he would never take a knee for Dr. V. No, I don't want you taking a knee. I want you to hug and walk together with me and win together with myself and Jazz. So shout out to Claude. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any comments or questions about this epic conversation, I don't have to tell you. You're going to put them in anyways. So Jazz, when you first saw this whole incident going down, what were your first thoughts?
So I tend to, and I'm just going to be completely transparent, I was all for it. I feel that, when it all started kind of unraveling, what I am commending and what I'm excited to see is that we as Black people are using our platform to invoke change radically. And so it was the first time anyone had seen, at least in the element of football, someone take a kneel. And I feel like it is really causing us to unravel some of the doctrine that we've accepted as to what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And it's us using these platforms to have epic conversations, which we all know epic conversations lead to change or have the power to lead to change. So I'm excited to see that, like, we're just not in this passive place anymore.
Okay. Do you feel it's appropriate to kneel during the national anthem?
Well, this is one of those conversations where it's like, okay, well, let me just tell you what I think. I feel that the idea that is supposed to be embodied in the national anthem does not pertain to the Black community, does not pertain to African Americans, especially in the North America, where we do the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem. And so I can understand how it was the idea of taking a kneel, because these rights, these, rights that are conveyed in this national anthem do not extend to us. And so it's one of those things that we can't honor something that we're not on the receiving end of. And so I do think that it's okay to kneel, in the sense of it's time for us to start talking about why this is not a fair place for every person.
Okay. Well, just two things. I also want to say shout out to Dr. Tachi, who is joining us. So it's great to see her as always. Please check out. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give props. Claude Diamond, check him out on Periscope. He does a lot of live stream broadcasts on Periscope, teaching his guts method to selling, the GUTS method, and it's really good stuff. So please follow him on Periscope, and also follow Dr. Tachi on Periscope. Also, Mediascope every Wednesday on Facebook Live, and also on Periscope. Some of the best content you'll hear about media, tech, and pop culture. Please follow both of them, because they're darn worth it. So,
touch base with Tachi after this. I can't find her on Facebook, and I'm really interested in listening to herself, so I have to reach out to her.
Well, she's actually under her name on Facebook. So you check out if you want. I can give you the information after, but definitely she is on it, and so is Claude Diamond. It's interesting watching this from Canada. And we don't have any protests on the Canadian flag, but there is a lot of, there's growing comments about the treatment of Indigenous people in Canada. And it's interesting to see if they will form a protest during the national anthem, or athletes will start forming a protest in Canada when the Canadian national anthem is going to be played. Don't know what's going to happen. Going to be interesting. But what's even more interesting is that some of the owners, let's go back. 3 teams in the NFL on Sunday did not come out during the national anthem, but one team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, had one of their players come out and give an allegiance. And ironically, I don't know if it still is, but yesterday his jersey was the best-selling jersey in the NFL. Go figure. Wow. So it's a really hot topic issue. I know Dr. Tachi, you're watching, and Claude, if you have any comments or questions, please bring them in, chime in, because I'd like to have a great community conversation about this. What do you say to people that say, you know what, it's wrong to keep the knee down? What would you come back at with them? Because they're saying it's very patriotic, etc. What would you say back to them?
So I think that's a question I would appreciate, like, your insight on too.
Okay.
I think that we are misunderstanding the purpose of the kneel. The kneel is not to be anti-patriotic. The kneel is not to be disrespectful or to, not give respect to those who have served. It is to get us to recognize that the rights, the civil rights, the things that are extended to certain populations do not cover us. And so it's very difficult to honor something that we know in reality does not pertain to our people or not pertain to our rights. And so you're asking me to stand and respect something that does nothing to protect or to, give attention or respect to our experiences as, African Americans or Black people in North America. And so I think I was listening to Ricky Smiley's show, and he had a military woman on there, and she gave this speech on Facebook that they played back, and she was saying that she wanted people to stop making the excuse that this action is anti-patriotic. In fact, those who do serve so that everyone has equal rights. And so I've seen veterans on their knees. I've seen veterans speak out about it. I've seen active military participants speak out, and majority of the response that I've seen from them is, no, this is not anti-patriotic. In fact, this is what we're fighting for, so that we can have the rights to extend to all. So I think for me is to press people to look past what they deem is the proper way to do something, which is to put your hand up your heart and stand for the national anthem, and really give respect to what we're asking and what anyone who's protesting this particular tradition is asking. And that's for us to start really recognizing that this is not an equal place for all of us. That's my response in that space.
and Claude Diamond put up a really interesting comment saying here the flag is such an emotional issue for so many. It represents so much to many. And he had, then Tachi is saying killing people in the streets is unpatriotic. For many African Americans, it functions as an oppressive force. Protest is the highest, I think she wants to say, form of patriotism, which is understood. Yeah. I think. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I read a quote that said, people aren't mad that you're kneeling during the anthem. They're mad because Black people are no longer doing what they're told to do. And so I think that is a very solid assumption or a very solid assertion to make, is that it's not about this flag. It's the fact that we're no longer doing what you told us we have to do in the presence of this flag, which is cross our hand over our heart and pledge allegiance to this, or to listen to the national anthem. So it's more about no longer adhering to the oppression actions and traditions. And that's what I think the steam and the fire and the anger comes from, is, no, we're not there anymore.
And you're getting to what I think is the real crux of this issue is race. It's just another facet of that issue of race in America.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to what Donald Trump said, really in just firing up a whole lot of people on this and just causing further divisiveness. It was just, I'm going, maybe he did it as a deterrent, maybe he did it just to solidify his base, but I think it's just another facet of race. And it's interesting, someone said, a few comments being made of President Trump saying, hey, how come he sent so many tweets out about the NFL and take a knee, but hardly anything about Puerto Rico? How come he didn't spend this much energy about Charlottesville?
Yeah. And it's so, I think I'm still kind of in the grief cycle of accepting that this is the president. I think I'm still in that denial stage where it's like, this can't be our reality. And the reality is that our president is more engaged in, the sports and this issue of taking a kneel than he is with potential war, than he is with what's going on with North Korea, than he is with the natural disaster, than he is with Charlottesville, than he is with anything. And so it just really speaks to, again, the conditions of what we're in and what we're continually having to deal with, which is, this is our reality now. And so with that being said, I feel like occurrences like someone taking a kneel is our only way to continue to try to have a voice in what constantly feels like a losing battle. So I'm very proud that we've kind of gathered some more support behind that from players and just from the mass public. And again, I'm a big person that understands that social media is pushing conversations that we've had behind closed doors or we haven't had behind closed doors, and now we have to face them head on. And I feel like social media puts in a lot of that pressure that, you see the numbers dropping in social media. I mean, as far as like football support, you see the combativeness among our president and, day-to-day engagement on social media. And so we're just in a prime time to really take our stance on one side of the fence or the other. And so I'm all for those taking a kneel.
Another interesting facet of this whole group of
sorry.
Another interesting facet with all these events is the support of many owners, and a number of these owners who contributed to President Trump's campaign to be elected. Right. But someone brought up a very interesting point. Are they protesting about what Donald Trump said, or are they protesting because he's trying to affect their bottom line?
Economics. Economics is a driving force, and I think that if we can recognize how to tie in the protesting with affecting economics, and that's really why it's becoming such a hot topic, is people are protesting the good old American sport of football, and you're seeing constantly each week after week the numbers of viewers are dropping, which means that the money is dropping, which means that now it's no longer one person kneeling on the field and we're having this conversation around Colin. It's okay, now we're starting to lose viewers, we're starting to lose the support of some of the American people, our numbers are dropping, media is being affected, and now we have to figure out how to deal with this because economics push action. And so I think that's what we're seeing now is it's different now when it's starting to cause us to lose money. Now we got to deal with it.
Yeah, they gotta deal with it, and I don't think that President Trump is gonna take the foot off the gas until, I don't know. Who knows if he'll ever take the? Maybe he'll talk about this all the rest of his presidency and just forget about everything. Oh, he's moved on to the budget now. That's right. Yes, he's moved on to the budget now. But when you see these protests and you see players locked arm in arm, some people would also say that these players shouldn't be doing that because America gives them the freedom and has given them the privilege to play this game. They should stick to football. Do you think today's black athlete should be less political or more political? And I'll start. You can respond, and I'll get into it also.
No, I think that goes back to the conversation that we were having on our previous conversation when we were talking about the ESPN reporter who was tweeting about Donald Trump and how that becomes an issue because they're trying to leverage her position to silence her. And so I believe this is kind of the same thing. No, you haven't given black athletes a platform. You've learned how to gain financially from the talents, the natural talents of black people. And so it's one of those things where it's almost like, well, this got you out the hood, or this got you out of, poverty, or whatever the case may be. You should just be grateful, which is really no different than, telling a slave, like, you get 3 meals, whether it's slop or not. You have all of these things, and you should just be grateful that you have labor or work or whatever the case may be. It's kind of that same twisted mentality, and I feel like so much goes back to rooted in some of the same things we've seen in the time of slavery, where it's like, no, you're not doing, black athletes a favor by paying them a small percentage of what you gain from their talent, their natural talent, and using that as a means in which to silence them from really speaking truth. And that's really all that it comes down to.
I wonder, too, if you go back to the start of this journey, Colin Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, I've had some other black male thought leaders on different conversations, and one of them said, you know what? He would like to see how much one of my regular contributors would say testicular fortitude other athletes would have to go the route that Colin Kaepernick has. Yes, it's one thing to protest, but would you give up your career to fight for this? And I'm waiting to see if any of those athletes will do that.
What that particular outcome shows to me is, even on a small scale, like navigating through corporate America or navigating through a space where you are the minority, is you'll know that they stick together. And by they, I mean the good old boys, other races or so on and so forth, stick together. So the fact that Colin was blackballed is just reflective of that. And it's almost sad that it took all of this before he got the support, that they kind of had that meeting before the meeting that said, okay, no one's going to recruit him, no one's going to draft him. And now he's kind of in this island where he's like, I stood knowing the consequences. And it's nice to know that he now has some backing, whether it be kneeling, whether it be not coming out of the locker room, whether it be those of us who are saying, you know what, I may appreciate the sport and I may enjoy it, but I'm not going to watch it this year because this social injustice is bigger and more important than any enjoyment I get out of the sport. But the reality is that many will not go as far as he went, and that just creates that difference between, where your value system lies. And the truth is that he's going to probably, I would suspect, be the only player that goes to that extent. However, I'm pretty sure it gives some relief knowing that at least people are saying, you know what, I'm willing to kneel, I'm willing to unify in the sense of I believe in why you kind of kicked off this protest, and for that I can kind of be celebratory, but it'd be nice to see us kind of ride this wave as a complete, unit and community standing behind that.
Also, another interesting facet to this, go back to the mid to late 1960s. There was a boxer named Cassius Clay who changed his name to Muhammad Ali, who said, I'm not going to fight in that war. I'm not going to kill Viet Cong because they never did anything against me. Interesting, for many years, a lot of people held it against Muhammad Ali, and some still do. that he never served in the war. But isn't it interesting when he passed away, how many people lauded him as a freedom fighter for justice, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And now, here we are many years later, same in some ways, still a lot of injustice. In some ways, the same injustice from the 1960s.
Right.
And athletes are protesting, and we still have a lot of the same reaction 50 years later.
Yeah.
It just makes me think,
Man.
how, the more I know, the less I understand. I would hope that we've moved far enough in society in regards to letting people have their free speech. Not your definition of free speech, but free speech for all.
Yeah. I feel like free speech is only free if you're saying what you are supposed to say. It's then when you're not, it costs you. And Colin is reflective of the fact that free speech costs you. It's not free. My dad made a comment a while back when it was like at the height of, all the things were happening with police brutality and a lot of the protests were going on in different spaces. He really, he grew up in the 40s and 50s. He said, this hasn't changed. Police have been killing black men. The difference is we have these outlets now that you have to address us as a people. You have to acknowledge what's going on because everything is so televised and everything has kind of gotten into the hands of the people where it used to be your word against mine. I used to be able to be silenced or maybe just one particular area knew what happened. But now I have this live Facebook, or now I have people who have smartphones, and now I have that. Like all of these things have allowed us to kind of, at least in our best attempt, own some of the narrative behind the truth and behind seeking justice. And so that's why things have kind of like gotten to this level where we're seeing huge protests and we're seeing just people being very adamant about fighting for rights. We're not really different, as my father said, than where we are. We haven't progressed as much as we would like to think. Now we just have a direct light into it, and it's kind of shocking to realize, like, this is the same fight that we fought, like you said, Cassius Clay, back when his boxing career. The same issues, the same concepts, and yet still, we're still here. We're still here, which speaks to why it's okay to take a kneel, because we're not really extending these rights, and we're not really free to speak, and we're not really getting the liberties of being an American citizen, yet we have to still adhere to the things that at least go along to get along, and we're tired.
Yeah, I think that, and I think with the current social political environment in the United States, it's opened up a lot of wounds, whether good, bad, or ugly. But I don't think there's been a better opportunity to mobilize in a lot of years, maybe since the 1960s. There's no better opportunity for people of color to mobilize, because if you can't mobilize now, or if you don't have mobilized reasons now, your wood is wet. Let's put it that way. We're gonna move on to another conversation topic, because I know Jazz is somewhat limited for time. So I'm gonna move on to another interesting topic. So I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm glad we're gonna talk about this because it actually became a big story from the Canadian side of the world. Nice. So I'm just gonna bring this up really quickly. There is in Canada, what we have, well, in the United States, you have your Senate, your House of Representatives, etc. In Canada, we have something called the Minister, it's called the Parliament, and which is our top rung of government. So I'm just going to talk about a situation that happened here in Parliament. Okay. I'm just going to bring it up right quick on my screen. Well, okay, let's do it right now. All right, so Selina Savard-Chavons. She's an Ontario Liberal MP, and she delivered a powerful speech recently about body shaming in the House of Commons. She specifically addressed that many girls in Canada and around the world have been shamed or banned from school because of their hairstyles. And so what she did is she decided to go into the House of Commons with her hairs in her braids to make an important point. I'm going to quote some of what she had to say. Okay. Body shaming of any woman in any form from the top of her head to the soles of her feet is wrong. What makes us different is what makes us unique and beautiful. So I will continue to rock these braids. I love that. She's going to rock these braids.
Yes.
And she went on to explain that she didn't wear her hair just because braids, quote, look pretty dope, unquote. She wanted to show support for those who have been shamed for looking different. I'll just finish off with this quote. Most importantly, in solidarity with young girls and women who look like me and those who don't, I want them to know that their braids, their dreads, their super curly afro puffs, their weaves, their hijabs, and their headscarves, and all other variety of hairstyles belong in schools, in the workplace, in the boardroom, and yes, even on Parliament Hill. Unquote. She received a 1-minute standing ovation.
Yes.
And just commentary here, by wearing braids, the MP was making a statement that what you look like shouldn't determine your worth, and that people should accept you as you are.
I feel like she just moved up to like my second favorite person in government right under Maxine. That is just powerful across the board.
Well, you know what? I've been blessed. I actually interviewed her before she went into Parliament.
That's awesome.
Long time ago. So, but she's a straight shooter like that. And I haven't sent her this, but I'm going to tweet her and saying, you have now become the Michelle Obama of Canada.
Yes, that is amazing. I mean, down to like the use of her language, even, kind of, to me, that's kind of like a silent rebellion against what you say that we're supposed to be. Even using words like dope, and I'm going to rock these braids. I have a big issue with, number one, the standard is always the European standard. And so I don't know how it is there, but here.
Yes, it's an issue here too.
Yes. The standard of beauty, the standard of professionalism, the standard of excellence, the standard of success is always that measured by the European. Specifically when you talk about image and beauty as a Black woman, the standard is European. And for those of us who look completely opposite of the standard, like we're not even close to that. The straight blonde hair, I have kinks and curls and locks, the eye color, the pigmentation in the skin, all those things are my features, my body shape do not meet those standards of European. And so everything around me as a Black woman, as a Black girl, says I am everything but beautiful. And that's embedded in you consciously and subconsciously to the point that, we are so ashamed to embrace who we are. And so I am, as a mother, excited to see Black girls rock and brown girls rock and natural and all these movements that encourage us to embrace our beauty, because I didn't have those things and a lot of us didn't have those things growing up. And so we, either felt shameful, felt unpretty, attempted to assimilate or look as close to that as we can. And now kind of owning our beauty is rewarding, but body shaming and feeling less than and feeling inadequate, and it transitions from childhood into feeling like you got to wear a straight weave or pull your hair back before you go into the workforce. And these are all very real issues for women of color. So I'm excited to talk about this, as you can tell.
Yeah, I know you're very now, and you don't have to answer this, but have you had the experience of being body shamed yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my!
I think that. I think that for me, my response to being held to the European standard initially, before really gathering the sense of self, was to try to assimilate or try to get as close to that as possible. So there'd be a time where I probably did have a red or blonde, like a very light colored weave, and I wore like color contacts, and I, wanted to keep my curves to a minimum. So I was like very health conscious about just wanting to be small. And this is during high school years and maybe a little early college. And I didn't recognize what was happening, but it was my battle against, feeling unpretty and feeling unworthy and feeling less than because I didn't look like that. And then once I gathered that knowledge of myself, then I'm like, okay, look. And now you see me with locks and, curves and all of my features are are very much accentuated, and I'm at peace with who I am. I love being a Black woman. But growing up, I didn't have anything around me that had a deep appreciation for being a woman of color. So I try to get as far away from it as possible, and I didn't even recognize that. So, yes. And then I also feel like body shaming translates into oftentimes I see people use other women to crucify other women. So we see women who are maybe in the church or maybe of Muslim culture or very like covered, and we use that to kind of perpetuate the rape cycle, to say that like women dressed in a certain kind of way is, you know, one of the reasons why like rape and sexual assault happen, or trying to say like, you know, women who wear less clothes or more revealing clothing are less of a woman than women who are, you know, fully covered. And I feel like even that is an example of how we teach women to hate anything that you tell us isn't beautiful. So I've experienced that on multiple sides.
You know, it's interesting. I'm just thinking about this, but this is just not necessarily a lady thing, because I'm sure body shaming happens with men too.
Yeah. Yep. I'm pretty sure. Well, when I thought about body shaming, when you gave the topic, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to talk about this. I actually saw a tweet go viral, and this is back to women, but we'll move back to men too. But it was a man who created like a meme that said, like, these are the women that I like, and it's like this Black woman who has like this very curvish body, very fit. She looked kind of model type, and versus the women who like me. And it was this bigger woman. She was heavier set. She was full body, full figure, definitely plus size. And so, like, he tweets this out. He thinks it's funny. And then the plus size woman actually saw it and says, well, I don't like you. And that went completely viral, because here he was trying to shame this bigger woman by using, like, the figure and the shape of a slimmer woman, only to have it kind of be a drag session. But it was really reflective of how we do condemn women for their bodies, for their shapes, for their looks, for their appearances, and I'm pretty sure it happens to men too. Absolutely.
You know, I guess not being a lady, this is why I'm getting your thought process on this, but I've actually seen women body shame each other, and that really blows my mind, really and truly.
Well, I feel like sometimes when you become conscious of things, you get to look at things from the outside, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, I'm seeing this woman shame this other woman because of her body. When you're in the midst and you don't really have the understanding, I don't even think sometimes it's clear that that's what's happening. But there's been numerous instances where I've seen women be friends or not friends or whatever, and make comments that can really, you know, plant seeds of insecurity in their, you know, friends and family or whatever the case may be, and not recognize that that's what's happening. And I think we do it to our children too, whether it be one big thing I think we do in our Black culture is like, I remember my daughter came home one day and she said, I can't wait till January. She was about like maybe 4. I'm like, what happens in January? She's like, well, it'll be cold and then my skin will go back to being lighter.
What?
Right? Because like in the winter, like your skin kind of like lightens up. And it's because someone in my family, not knowing, I'm not sure who it was telling her, oh, you're really getting dark out there in that sun, and you know, whatever the case may be. And so they told her, well, it's okay because in the winter your skin will lighten up again. And not recognizing that now you have this like little 4-year-old girl who thinks that her darker skin is like unattractive, and so now she's like waiting for winter months so she can get light again. And it's just those kind of things that we don't recognize, that we're creating unnecessary insecurities and body shaming and doubt in our young men, our young women, and how that kind of carries with you through the ages. And so I think we definitely need to be more mindful of that.
Well, you know what? I just want to welcome a brand new friend to the Stuff Epic Conversations. Actually, he was on my Facebook Live promoting this epic conversation earlier. Lawrence Kerr, one of the best photographers in Toronto, period. And as I said in my Facebook Live, not only is he a great photographer, he's a great person. And he makes a really good point saying he has experienced body shaming. Happens at the gym quite often. Smaller, fitter people poke fun at my efforts to shed pounds and get in shape. That is sad. That is really sad, because I have a feeling that those people who are slim now were once not slim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that now that he kind of put that into perspective, you do see it, and I feel like that is the breeding ground for where a lot of body shaming happens with men. In the locker rooms when you're younger, probably in the sports locker rooms, gym, anywhere where, like you said, your body is one, you get to kind of see it more, but it's an opportunity for those who are more naturally fit or slim or lean or have different physiques to kind of impress upon those who don't why they're inadequate or why they're not up to par. And I think those are things that we just have to do better with, you know?
Absolutely. And I think it all starts for loving yourself and being able to stand on your own ground. You shouldn't let you are beautiful as you are. You were created. There's something unique about you, at least one thing with each one of us that is no one else has. And you've got to be confident in yourself, because, sorry to say this for people who may not know this, not everyone's going to like you the way you are.
No.
The way you look, and, so, and you know what? And I give you a very good example, someone who's not body shamed, but she goes up and down in the past with her figure. Look at Oprah.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm not being sexist here. She doesn't have the perfect figure, and during her career, she went up and down with her weight, but she proved people wrong. She had people respect her, regardless of the way she looked.
Yeah, I teach my daughter, and something that we kind of have always said in my family, and my sister used to say, because it was a big group of us, but she used to tell us, the only time that you talk badly about someone else is when you don't feel good about yourself. And it's such a simple statement, such a simple kind of mantra, but it rings so true that anytime you find yourself shaming another person, it's really deep rooted in self. And so that goes back to your statement of, you got to learn to just love you for who you are and recognize that there are uniquenesses and values in that. But I think us really coming together at this point in a more public space to acknowledge that, Black men are beautiful, Black women and their naturalness is gorgeous, and really kind of extending pride in who we are helps a lot. And so, I'm excited to see that we're kind of trying to shift that culture and get back to the point of just honoring, loving people for who they are, and no matter what their package looks like. So.
Well, and I'm just going to put it out there, and I don't know if Lawrence will respond or not, but Lawrence has done photos of thousands of people. I was going to say 100, but thousands of people. And Lawrence, you can put in the comment section if you're willing to shout it out, because you talked about body shaming that happens directly to you. Have you ever seen, do a number or any people that you do photos of, do they not feel comfortable in their own body? Do they feel shy about their body? I don't know and you don't have to use any names, but have you ever encountered that where someone doesn't feel that they, as Prince would say, they don't got the look, Do they, and what do you do? Because I know it's not only your job, but you believe that everyone is beautiful because you're taking photos and wanting the best light. If you ever have to respond to that, and how you do if you need to respond to that. So I also too want to get to the body shaming. I haven't had it happen that often, but because people probably say I'm such a big guy, so that I don't know what that comes into it. But so, Jazz, have you ever been body shamed by someone outside of your culture? Have you ever felt that you've been body shamed? Maybe not directly, but maybe indirectly. You had that feeling that you were body shamed by someone outside of your culture. Because I think it's one. And is it a different feeling by being body shamed by someone within your culture?
Well, I think that, again, I can remember growing up in high school, I was really deep in a misunderstanding of myself. I kind of came from a place where greatness and excellence, but whatever the case may be, was measured by your ability to stand next to Europeans and be in the same places as them and receive the same awards and participate in the same places. That was kind of emphasized to me, and I think it just was unintentional, but it also pressed me to really move forward with trying to be as far away from who I was and as close to what I thought I should be as possible. But nonetheless, it is. I don't think anything that happened or anything that was said was maybe intentional from outside the race at this point. It just was different. So I can remember like trying on like my pom-pom skirt, and I'm a hippie person, and being like, my skirt is raising up because I'm hips, and it's like, oh, like you just have those big old hips, and like it wasn't necessarily intentional. It was not recognizing that I'm just naturally going to be built a little different than maybe some of my European counterparts, but it would cause an insecurity because it's like my skirt is probably me and a couple other the black women are the only skirts that are spreading out like this because we are hippie women, or we are like bustful women or whatever the case may be. So it is a little different because I think when it doesn't come from a like hurtful place, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of like my Caucasian women or friends, like the same way that we understand that European is the standard, they believe that as well. You know what I mean? Like they are the standard. And so when they're making comments, it's not to necessarily be, at least not in that particular experience, to be hurtful. It was, I am the standard. Your skirt doesn't fit like this. It's because you got all, you're really hippie, and it was kind of like, oh. So I've had some of those experiences. It is different from inside your culture. I think inside our culture, we kind of pick each other apart, whether it be, size of your butt, or like if a black girl is skinny, then it's like, oh, you're really skinny for a black girl, or just kind of some of those things. Like we do impress upon each other a lot of unhealthy opinions and unhealthy comments. So I've experienced both, and both can be taken in and breed insecurity if you don't know how to kind of flush some of that out and just stand in front of the mirror and embrace yourself. So then it can also be carried on internally. And I think I've done some body shaming to myself internally. So yeah, I faced it from all places. And I think it's a lot to deal with it. Some of us never get fully comfortable with our bodies. And I think until we understand why we aren't, we won't ever be able to.
Good stuff. Claude Diamond, I will come to your question before we end. But Lawrence, and thank you, Lawrence, for providing some feedback. He's saying, yes, I have to be part counselor and part photographer, not just for the boudoir sessions, but for headshots as well. Helping them pose for their body type is part of my technique. He says, my job isn't to make you look beautiful, but feel beautiful. Mm-hmm. That is the secret. This happens with men and women. At times I've had to convince them that I can capture them in their best light.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. I'm very camera shy, so I'm probably one of those people that require my photographer to be a counselor.
Okay, hold on. How can you be camera shy and you're on 1 hour every week? What's that all about? That don't make sense.
Well, no, let me tell you why. The reason why I love doing this show is because it forces me to just get in front of the camera, and I of course I'm very comfortable having conversations with you, and by the time I get on the camera it's fine. But like there's so many like live videos I need to do, there's so many just like videos I need to do, period. And I just struggle to go across the word because I am very camera shy. So I do require my photographer to be part counselor, part like anxiety reducer, part like confidence building.
Oh, understood. I think that, and I'll be transparent too. When I was much younger, if you see pictures pictures with me in it, they're like this. I didn't want people to have pictures of me. I regret it now because there's not too many pictures of me when I was younger, and I regret that now. But I realize now, and everything's really started to change a few years ago when I bought a fairly decent camera, not a Lawrence K camera, but a decent camera, and I just started taking pictures everywhere, and put myself in pictures because they catch a moment.
Yeah, and there's always that I'm very big about. Yeah, I would take pictures of the moment.
Yeah, but, so I make sure, and I don't really sure. There's some you want to look great at. Others, you know what? There's a story to every one of them, and sometimes you may not want to. You may at 100%, but don't let anyone shame you.
Right.
That's just absolutely not called for, which leads to, I guess, as we're winding up our conversation, our epic conversation, Claude Diamond is asking, how do you think this will all end?
And by this,
the body shaming, how can it, I don't think, let me lead in on this. I don't think it'll completely end, because unfortunately the world is full of some bad people. And there's going to be people to think that they're better, or think because something's not like them, it's room for them to think lower, degrade, act in a negative response to that. My solution is not how it will end, is how are you going to defend?
I like that.
How are you going to defend? So, because the thing is, as I say to people in life, things are going to happen. You can't control the things that are going to happen. You can only control how you react to them.
Yeah. I do think we're in a beautiful place, though. Me as a Black woman who has not only learned to embrace how drastically different I am than the European standard, but to actually I love being a Black woman now. And I couldn't have said that 10 years ago or so on, because everything around me that was valued didn't look like me. But now we're in a place where, one, you do that internal work to deal with your insecurities internally and get to a point of self-acceptance. But as far as, for me, I have a 6-year-old, I love that she can see, Black women in prestigious positions, or, taking the risk of doing it all on their own. I love that we have these Black Girl Rock and Brown Girl Magic, and we have all of these platforms that are not just praising Black women. It's making us really acknowledge how beautiful our features, and men too. We're really doing a great job of praising the Black man as well, and the natural beauty. And so I think some of our children need to see that. They need to see our faces in these predominant spaces. They need to see our faces on media and in TV, and they need to see that, we don't look like, the standard anymore. But you have a bunch of women around you who just love being you, a bunch of men who love being Black. And I feel like we're moving into a more positive direction. I'm going to be like Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody Black at this point. But I do that. I think we're in a different place where hopefully our children and our children's children won't struggle with identity and beauty the way, previous generations and even those who are kind of in that place now have before. So, yeah.
I will add on to that by saying, love who you are, but take care of yourself.
Yes.
So, nothing wrong wherever you are, but make sure you take care of yourself. And it's ironic, last week, Friday, I went to a dietitian.
Ah, nice, good.
So I got some coaching on what I should be eating, and I'll be transparent. I'm a person that a lot of times doesn't eat breakfast. I got a little bit of a verbal slap on the hand about that. So that is changing, and what my meal should look like, etc. The dietitian said, yes, you're doing a very good job, but there's areas of opportunity for you to take it to the next level. So yes, love where you're at, but and this is only to take care of yourself. You could be in the most perfect shape and you may still get body shaming. That's going to happen, but don't body shame yourself.
Yep, that's the biggest way is the self-criticism, the self-shaming.
Yeah, I think that's where it starts, because if you can stand your own ground, that's the most important thing. And if you can stand your own ground, a lot of times those body shamings is going to go away.
Don't matter. They don't matter.
Right? And as I say to people, it's not the boat around the ship that makes it sink. It's when it's not the water around the boat that makes it sink. It's when the water gets inside the boat that makes it sink.
Perfect analogy.
So I think that is my thought process in regards to when it comes to body shaming and any form of injustice, especially verbal injustice. Don't let it get inside you, because if it does, it will sink you. And as I always say too, always keep as much as you can a level above the situation you're in.
I like that.
So on that note, another epic conversation called Stuff is Done by Miss Camera Shy.
I'm working on it.
You know, like how, you know, folks who are watching this live on the replay, like Lawrence K, Claude C, Tachi. Does she look like she should be camera shy? Come on, with a smile like that. And then like her daughter is even twice as beautiful in the smile. She's just like her daughter is a gem too. I'll take back the choice. They're both beautiful. They're both epic beauties, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how we roll. So this is another.
She doesn't have a problem with the camera.
No, not at all. Oh gosh.
Nope, not at all.
Like many times, Jazz has to keep her away from the camera when we're recording live. So that's why we're getting off now, so I don't hear the knock on the door. She just doesn't pop into the screen for no reason. But first things first, Jazz, I need to get both of you in this. Well, the challenge is, Lawrence, it would be easy. Jazz is in Chicago. So I don't know, unless Jazz comes to Toronto or you go to Chicago.
I do need to come to Canada.
Okay.
I do.
But Lawrence K, we do need to chat. I'm getting to that point where I have to get some good headshots done because a number of significant opportunities are coming up, especially this month. Next 30 to 45 days, another number of significant things are coming up. So I'll have to check you out and see if I can break my bank account to get a hold of you. And plus, Lawrence, I'm going to put an open invitation. You are more than welcome to come on the Dr. Vibe Show to talk about photography. Oh, actually, you know what? If you could, Lawrence, we'd like to get you on Stuff and talk about photography, the world of photography. So that's an open invitation. We'd love to have you on Stuff, really and truly, because I have not had the opportunity to have a professional photographer come on any of my platforms, and would be very informative, and you could be very much a good advocate on what people should be watching out for when they're wanting to get their photos done, etc. Best practices. So I'm putting that invitation out to you. Love you to accept it if you have some time. But
a good image changes all marketing material.
Yes, and give your tips in regards to imaging, marketing, because again, everything's visual as always, and even more so these days. So I'm rambling, but I got to say, Jazz has got to go. So Jazz, thanks again for taking time out of your epic schedule and letting the boss of the house letting you on. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Yep, I'm pretty easy to reach. I am at Jazz Keys on all social media platforms. That's JAZZKEYES on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My website, www.jazzkeys.com or info@jazzkeys. You can follow me on any social media. I try to be as accessible as possible. And yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy going.
Well, you know what? I love it when I put out a call to action and someone makes it happen. Because Lawrence had just said, let's make it happen. He's in. So what I'm typing out to you, Lawrence, is I think I'm following you on Twitter. If not, I'm just putting a request now. How can I get in touch with you? In fact, I do have your email address. I do. So after I'm done here, after we finish our post show, I will contact you and see how we can make it happen. And if we can make it happen next week, that would be outstanding. That'd be great. And actually, Dr. Tachi would like it too. So we already got one person wanting to make it happen. With myself, I'm Dr. Vibe. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. Also host and producer of Stuff, which is on most Wednesday evenings at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, where myself and this smiling lady discuss current events and news stories from a black lady's and black man's POV, point of view. I'm also, you can hear replays of my audio conversations. Should I try to do this with my eyes closed?
I think you got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
I almost got it down pat.
Okay. You can hear me replay-wise, audio-wise. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Tuned In Radio, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music Store. You can hear selected audio replays at thegoodmenproject.com, where I'm the only online audio stream content provider weekly for the last 4 years, and thegoodmenproject.com gets 3 million unique visitors a month and 5 million page views a month. There you go. And also you can hear selected audio replays at wjmsradio.com on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Time and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, you can go to the YouTube channel, where I now have 256 subscribers, which is outstanding. 3 months ago, we had none. You can see replays of Epic Conversations via YouTube there. Okay, I'm gonna open my eyes again. Now, I'm also a brand ambassador for Cuisine Noire magazine, which is the only African American magazine online dedicated to African Americans in food, wine, and travel. I'm also a certified empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching and Communications. If you'd like a complimentary 30-minute conversation, please reach out to me on either one of these ways, at drvibeshow or dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com, or you can go to my website, www.the.drvibeshow.com, click on Contact Dr. Vibe Show. We can make it happen. Also, that's another place you can listen and watch replays. And finally, I like to end off with this thing. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. And also, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Big shout out, I'm going to say first to Lawrence Kerr, first time viewer. And he's a double tonight because he caught me on Facebook Live, and he caught me on YouTube live. So much thanks to you, sir. I will be reaching out to see if we can get you on the Dr. Vibe. So God willing, next week, that would be epic. And also to Dr. Tachi, as always, thank you for your continuous support. And also to Claude Diamond. That is it. We will see you next week on Stuff. And as always, I like to say, you are blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. And I will have an announcement for you about me next week, at least one. I will tell. If Jazz keeps on smiling after we finish, I will tell her that at least one announcement when we're done. So we're gonna keep it quiet till next week. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith. Good night.
Night.